Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It is Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021. I am Solid Blue Sister, and this is My Turn to Talk. I'm traveling right now, and I'm in Chicago on a overcast day, but still a good day. And I hope everyone is having a good day wherever you are in the country or wherever you are in the world. Every day you wake up is a good day. Okay, so I'm going to get started and let people trickle in. Today I'm talking about social ignorance, a choice, entitlement, or disease. The world must deal with so much crap. Does it really need people who know better but choose not to? Do people feign ignorance because they're afraid of how the truth makes them look? Why do some people think they're better than others? Welcome, GP Man 45. You are the first one here, and people will trickle in as they usually do. So, social ignorance. That's what I'm calling it. I'm calling it social ignorance because I think there's a lot of it going around. I think that there's so many things that are going on in society that we choose to just not pay attention to. Hello, Bobby. Welcome. I think that people know better, but they choose to either look the other way or just think that, this is happening, but if I ignore it, maybe, just maybe, things will be different. But things are not always like that. You know, there are a lot of things in society I think that people need to face and come to terms with. Um, and that goes from a host of issues, from politics to race, religion to schools to um, you know what's being sold in stores. I mean, social ignorance can encompass a lot of things. So that's what I want to talk about today, and I want to know what you guys think about social ignorance. What do you think? So let's see. GB Man, you're the only one here for now. So do you have a comment on, I mean, do you think I'm wrong, or what do you think? Do you think I should use another term for social ignorance? What do you think? Do you have a comment or low IQ? Yes, yes. I would say that. I think there's a lot of low IQ going around. Frankie, welcome, welcome, my friend. Um, you know, when I look at social ignorance, again, I said, is it a choice? Is it entitlement, or is it a disease? I think that social ignorance as a choice are people who just refuse to pick their lane, or they pick their lane. I'll be in this lane one day, and tomorrow I'll be in this lane, and depending upon what's going on, on Friday, or next month, I'll choose that lane. Then for entitlement, I think is more of, well, I'm better than you, or you should do this. Uh, I shouldn't have to do this because I'm here and you're there. So socially, whatever I think and whatever I do, I am smarter than you. That's entitlement to me in terms of social ignorance. And then in terms of disease, I have to go with what GP Man says. It's just a low low IQ. I mean, there are some people out there who are just, for lack of a better term, I think stupidity plays a lot into social ignorance and or just plain ignorance. Welcome, Crucible Man. So again, I just want to know, um, why do some people think that they're better than others when it comes to certain things when they're not? Why do I go back to my question? Do people feign ignorance because they're afraid of how the truth makes them look? You know, there's a lot of truth out there that I think that people are not willing to face. I think there is truth out there that people just either they truly don't get it or they don't want to. And yesterday evening, I had dinner with a very good friend of mine, and we talked about everything. We talked about politics, we talked about religion, we talked about our children, um, uh, we talked about TV shows, whatever. And on every subject, there was some disagreement. But when we talked about what was going on in the world, even though we disagreed, at the end of the conversation, we did come to an understanding, of how each of us felt. And I don't know. I just think that there's a lot going on that we are just unwilling to face. And we tend to listen to people and follow people who, in your heart, it is wrong. And that's another show that I'm doing next week. But I don't know. I seem to be talking in circles, but I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. Welcome, Juju. I'm so glad you are here. So I'm going to open it up and let's see. Does anyone want to start us off? GP Man, Crucible Man, you usually have something to say, but I'm sending an invite out to everyone. So whoever wants to take the mic, you guys can take the mic. And Frankie, I know you're at work. And Juju, I know you're at the pool. So, Crucible Man, what do you have to say?
Well, I think you summed it up pretty well. I think a lot of it is a function of stupidity. Some of it could be insecurity. I don't know, but a lot of it is also immaturity. I think we've become an immature society. We want what we want. We don't want to hear bad news. We don't want to hear anything bad about our side, whether it's politics or whatever it is, and we're intolerant of other viewpoints. So I read an interesting column a few days ago by a left-leaning columnist, and it was more about words and vocabulary than it was about social ignorance. But I think the two are closely linked, because the gist of his article was that we don't like certain words because we are uncomfortable with them, even though they may reflect the reality of the world around us. We've become, a society of cowards. In my opinion, we're terrified to say the wrong thing, and we end up, pushing agendas on people because we just want our way, and we're not informed enough or adept enough to argue. And I put argue in air quotes. I don't mean argue in the vehement sense. I just mean exchange, go back and forth. Most people are ill prepared for that. So they shout people down. They use invective. They do other kinds of immature, self-centered things that helps to push their agenda forward, but it doesn't do a whole lot to reflect the reality of what people are living every day. I thought it was a very insightful comment, and he went on to list a bunch of words that he felt were being misused in our society today. And I think that's a form of ignorance, but it's also a form of selfishness. I want what I want. I don't care that much for the truth. I don't care how you feel about how I feel. I just want what I want.
Okay. You make some interesting points there, and I'm going to throw this out there to the group. So, I'm a liberal. Okay, I consider myself a moderate. Um, I listen to liberal shows. I listen to conservative shows. I particularly listen to one particular news uh, cast a news show or a newscast. Because I want to always know what this particular newscast is saying, and I will say that I don't like it, and I think it's full of propaganda. Having said that, do you think that when we tend to pick our lanes in particular instances, whether it be politics or religion, do you think that we tend to believe what we want to believe the people who are more like us, as opposed to when do you think that our minds are not really open? Because there are times that, I've listened to some things on the liberal side, and I had to switch over to the conservative side. So I wanted, this is where I come back and I always say, are you being honest? So if you're a religious fanatic, and you believe, I don't care, fire and brimstone, God said that you shouldn't do this and blah 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 blah, are you not letting your mind be open to what another religion may have to offer? Meaning, we're so in tune to what we believe, what we think, that we're not willing to listen to the other side. And I think that a lot of people are not honest, and they do not listen to the other side, or are they are even willing to listen to the other side. So I hope I didn't confuse anyone, but I know what what I'm trying to say. So hopefully you guys kind of pick that up. GB Man says it's kind of hard being all one sided. It is, but GP Man, there are a lot of people who are one sided. Um, you'll see something, and this is one thing that I always say when I listen to people. I like to. I don't necessarily like to read an article. I like to go and listen to what's on tape. This is what they said. It's on tape. But bottom line, this is what happened. It's on tape. But then you have people come back and say, no, 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 no. That's not what happened. What really happened was this. Well, no, it's on tape. This is what this person said. This is them. They're saying this. How are you going to spin that some other way? But they managed to do it, and it turns into propaganda. So it is hard to be one-sided, but people manage to be one-sided. So does anyone want to comment on that? Bahram, come on in. Long time no talk. Happy to see you. Welcome back.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for having me again. I actually called into a show just last night. I don't on here. Jonathan Turner show. He had pretty a similar title to his show last night, which was uh, "Or do opinions matter?" Facts over opinions. And I called into that show, and I think what I would like to share is when I first got into politics, and I know this isn't necessarily political based. I know what you're saying is social ignorance, and that can mean anything, not just politics. But when I took an interest into politics, I started watching political debates between two people, and I always sided with the person that threw out facts and not just used empathy or heartfelt emotions, which we all need, and we do need an element of those. But I believe when we are thinking about politics or running a country, you can't necessarily use your heartfelt emotions to run that country because you're just one person. You have to please a lot more. So you have to then look at statistics and facts. So I know that might, I'm obviously on the right. I would say I'm a conservative in the UK, so would be Republican in America. The values that they share. So I think that's where I come on it's good to have these conversations, and I hope I don't offend anyone tonight or yourself especially, because some of the views that I have, a lot of the left-leaning people, liberals, they shut us down very quickly. And if they were only willing to have these conversations and realize that we want the best for everyone, it doesn't matter what color your skin is, what sex you are, anything, we want the best. And by only looking at stats and figures and what's really happening in the world, other than where your heart is and what you feel is right, that's where it gets a bit messy, and not a lot of people are willing to have those conversations anymore.
You have pointed out a lot of good things, but I will say this, Bahram, and again, being a liberal, and this is where I would tend to disagree with you. I think, where you say that liberals will tend to shout people down. There are a lot of liberals, myself included, who feel that conservatives will tend to shout people down. So I think, we're at an impasse. Some people, feel one way, some people feel the other way. So doesn't it make sense to meet at the middle, and instead of shouting each other down, everyone just listens. Everyone just listens to what the other side, has to say, because I think that both sides have valid points. And I don't want to just make this about politics. I'm talking about just everything, all together as a whole. Um, and that's why I say there's so much stuff, so much crap that is going on, not just in politics, but just everything. There's just so much going on, and everyone is shouting at each other. No one is listening. And I understand what you're saying about facts and opinions, but that's when I come back to the thing with respect. Because like I said, when I had dinner, with a friend of mine yesterday, we disagreed. There were things that we disagreed on, but it came back to we respected each other, and we respected what the other person had to say, whether you believed in their fact or believed in their opinion. It was still an element of respect. So whether you're shouting someone down, be it you think the left is shouting people down, or I think the right is shouting someone down, doesn't it make sense that if we all just come together in the middle, and we respect each other and admit that there are assholes on both sides? Because I haven't, Lord knows I will, I've heard people say, I'll be the first one to say whatever, but you're not the first one to say. I don't want to have a conversation where the first thing you say is, that those goddamn liberals, whatever. But there are assholes on both sides, not just politics, not just religion, but on everything, on whatever subject you are talking about, whether the moon is made of blue cheese. There is an asshole on every side of every debate, argument, whatever. They're on both sides. And I think people need to realize that and admit that. So, but Bahram, I'm gonna throw it back to you, and then I'll open it up to Crucible Man. I know you are waiting, but I just want to get a response from Bahram. If you want to respond to that, if not, then I will throw it over to Crucible Man.
Yeah, everything you said there is perfect, spot on. Especially the whole thing about respect, and that's partly why I no longer really talk about politics anymore. And even in these shows on Podbean, there's a lot of political shows on the right and the left, and I just can't handle them because it's echo chambers, and there's not really a coming together and someone that's willing to bridge the gap between. Because the analogy I always use, if you and I was to meet up tonight, and we never talked about politics, we could have a great night having a chat about anything else, and then at the very end of the night you could turn around and say, what party do you vote for? And that would just ruin the whole conversation for a lot of people. And it's like we're more alike than they want us to believe. They want to divide us, and I think together, I don't think that you and I, whether I'm at one end of the spectrum and you're at the other, the political spectrum, sorry, that we're not the enemy of each other. I think it's more so the government and the propaganda that's coming out of our media that divides us. And there's not really a lot of people out there willing to bridge the gap and find that happy medium that you said earlier, where in the middle, like, you can use some facts and you can also use some opinions and feelings and come to a conclusion that suits both parties. And I think that's probably telling as to why there's a two-party system in America and probably most all over the world. I know here in the UK it's a two-party system, because they want us divided, split right down the middle.
Okay, and I will say, Bahram, as long as if I had a conversation or a show last week about having a mature conversation, we could hang out and we could go out and we're drinking whatever and having fun, going to the movies or going to the cinema, whatever. And I think that if we were to talk about politics or religion, if you can keep the conversation mature, if you're mature enough to handle the conversation, I don't think, even if we disagree, I don't think that the I don't think the evening would be ruined again if both people were mature enough to respect each other, and at the end of the day say, okay, that's what you think, that's what you think. Hey, what are you going to watch on television tonight? And just keep it moving.
Yeah.
So but yes, you are right, and you made a lot of good points. Crucible Man, you have been waiting patiently, so I'm going to throw it over to you. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I think you're correct. It isn't just politics. It's anything that there are two sides or maybe more than two sides to. I could be with a buddy of mine and we could be arguing. I could say, I think the 1927 Yankees are the greatest baseball team in history. And he could say, no, I think the 1951 New York Giants are the best one. And, it would be nice if each of us brought some statistics or some facts to back it up. There's this thing called the internet, and there's a lot of bullshit on the internet, but there's also a lot of very good, very reliable information if you choose to seek it out. And then at that point, back to the respect thing, I think you have to respect whomever you're talking to, whether it's a good friend of yours or whether it's an adversary, by being prepared to have an intelligent conversation. If at the end of that conversation, and again, I don't care if it's politics, religion, sports, the best sitcom in history, pick a category, there's a ton of them. At the end of that conversation, once each side has had a chance to, advance their position and rebut the other person's position, and I couldn't agree more with Bahram, emotion is not a position. We all have emotion and we all get excited and we all, can be animated depending on the topic, but that is not an acceptable way to have an exchange with somebody. Because at the end of the exchange, if you've both traded your viewpoints and you've both been as factually correct as you can be, and there's nothing wrong with being wrong. It doesn't mean you're lying. It just means you're wrong. But there are a lot of people who don't bring facts to an argument. They bring a lot of emotion. They bring a lot of ancillary things that aren't really germane. But at the end of that conversation, you should be perfectly comfortable saying, I don't agree with you, and be comfortable with that, and not just be mad. Be okay with the fact that they presented a good argument. I presented a good argument. We're just not going to come to a meeting of the minds on this, and be mature enough to say, okay, there's nothing more to be said here, but we at least had a respectful exchange. And that kind of goes back to the maturity thing. Can you admit that you're wrong? Can you admit that a position that you held is no longer valid or has been minimized or compromised in a way without it reflecting on you, without it, it doesn't reflect on me as a person. Something changed, and now my argument, if that's the right word, my position is no longer as solid as it used to be. And I'm okay with that because I'm a mature human being. There needs to be a little bit more of that, I think.
Okay, so Crucible Man, I'm gonna put you on the spot because last week you said that when people didn't agree or whatever, they wanted to take and I am somebody that does it. I do it all the time. They want to say, when you're going round and round in circles and you're not agreeing or whatever, that they use the line. let's agree to disagree. And you thought that that was, kind of like just a way not to, deal with the conversation or whatever. And I say that all the time. I say that all the time. I'm not going to go round and round with someone and, keep, and I don't even like to use use the word argue, debate with someone. I always say, let's agree to disagree. And people have not always been mature enough to accept that, as a reason to stop a conversation. Um, I think emotion does have to play into it. It may not, fit someone's, facts or whatever, but I think emotion does have to play into it, because if you say something to someone that is insulting to them, or you're dismissing them, or you're being disrespectful to them, whether it's their opinion, whether it's their fact, or whether you don't agree, or you agree, emotion does play into it. It plays into it a lot. So we disagree on that. So I will give you a chance to come back.
Yeah, there was a time, probably not all that long ago, that I might have been that person who, maybe not demonstrating the highest level of maturity. I like to think I'm a little better than that these days, but I guess the where I come down on the agree to disagree thing is, as long as what we've agreed to disagree on are factually provable. In other words, like if I said Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president of the United States, and you said no, he was the 18th. And I said, no, he was the 16th. And you said, no, he was the 18th. And finally, somebody says, we'll just agree to disagree. That's what used to send me over the edge, because I'm like, no, that's not an acceptable outcome here. If we're talking about something much more subjective, that's more opinion and emotion based, that we can't necessarily verify, and there's a lot of gray area in there, then I'm okay with we agree to disagree. But when there are factual things present and somebody decides, I just don't like your answer, I know it's true, but I'm going to disagree with you because I don't like that answer. That's where I part ways with the agree to disagree. You can agree to disagree provided you've been factually correct, or as factually correct as you can be. But to simply deny the reality of something because you don't feel like acknowledging it, that's not going to settle a whole lot of arguments.
Well, okay, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to disagree with you again. I'm going to throw this emotion part into it. Being an African American woman, and I am going to take race there. Everyone is not black. Everyone's not an African American woman. Everyone's not Latino. Everyone's not Native American. Everyone's not Asian. Everyone's not white. Whatever. But in terms of emotion, I shouldn't have to. If you say something to me that is disrespectful or rude or just downright mean or racist, whatever, I shouldn't have to sit up here and try to defend me. And there have been times when I apologize. There have been times when people have said things to me that were just downright rude, and we've gotten into what went from a disagreement to an argument, because they thought that they knew better. They thought that they knew how I was feeling better. So in terms of emotion, shouldn't have to prove fact with my emotions. People shouldn't have to tell you how to feel. And I hope I'm getting my point across, because it's not always if Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president of the United States versus the 18th president of the United States. When you throw emotion in there, a lot of times people want to tell you how you're supposed to feel, whether it be about religion. Well, you shouldn't, feel this way because God wants you to do this or do that. Don't tell me what God wants me to do. You believe in your God, and I believe in my God. Don't tell me how I should feel. So hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from. Does anyone else want to jump in? But Crucible Man, I am going to give you an opportunity to respond to me. And anyone else, if anyone else wants to take the mic, then feel free. You have, I have no problem giving people the mic. Crucible Man, did you want to come back for a rebuttal or disagree or agree?
Yeah, just real quick. I'm not opposed to emotion. It's part of us as human beings. We can't really get around it. It's how it's channeled, and is it a substitute for veracity? In other words, you can't just come to an exchange or a discussion only with emotion. That's not fair to anybody. That's a pointless conversation. You have to at least have enough respect for the person you're talking to be, somewhat honest about where you're coming from. And if it's just all emotion that you're bringing, I'm not sure that's a very worthwhile use of anybody's time.
Well, I'm not saying that they're just coming with emotion, but I'm saying that if emotion comes up in the conversation, or who am I to tell someone that they're wrong because they're feeling a certain way? Who am I to say that if if your teacher passed away, and that person was your favorite teacher, but I couldn't stand them. Am I going to say, well, why are you crying? He was an asshole, or why are you crying? She was an asshole. Or on the flip side, why are you not crying? She was the greatest teacher ever. Well, I mean, if that's how you feel, who am I to tell you how you should react? Because that's how you feel. That's your emotion. And a lot of people do that. They want to tell you how you should feel when it comes to emotion. That's what I'm talking about. And I've had people who have told me that, when people uh, go to court, and the person who killed someone, they're they have the victim statement, and people have said to me, why are people getting so upset? Why do victim statements matter? The person's dead and gone. What does the victim statement matter? It matters to the family. So who are you to say? This is what I'm talking about when I say social ignorance. So anybody else want to jump in? And Frankie, once again, my sister, thank you so much. So much. Thank you. Okay, let me look at some of these comments. Crucible Man says it's never okay to be impolite. No, it's not ever okay to be impolite, but unfortunately people are. And GP Man says every woman I've dated have yet to admit they were ever wrong. Okay. And Crucible Man says don't disagree. All right. So I don't want this to be a one-sided conversation between me and Crucible Man. Does anyone else have anything they want to say? Feisty One, do you want to jump in and say anything? I'll send you an invite. Let's see. Revolutionary Brothers here and Teacher Runner. So welcome to both of you. Do either of you want to jump into the conversation and say anything? I will send you an invite if you want to. If not, I totally understand. But I just want you to know that you are welcome to have the mic if you'd like. Anybody else want to say anything? Okay, I will send it back over to Crucible Man because I know he has something else he wants to say.
I guess just as a question, do you think arguing, and I hate to use that word because it has such a negative connotation to it, but for lack of a better word, having a conversation or a discussion in a very robust way, do you think that is helpful? Do you think the the kind of the back and forth, do you think it serves any purpose? Do you think people are enlightened or educated? Am I personally? I mean, obviously, I am not perfect. I'm a far cry from it, but I want to be as informed as I can be. Not that I go around, picking arguments or starting conversations with perfect strangers just to to try to learn something. But if the position I've taken on something is wrong, and I were to go out, in public or at a party or any kind of a gathering and start spouting things that I know are provably false, that would be very embarrassing to me. I mean, I pride myself on being reasonably well read, knowing a little bit about a lot of different things. But if it turns out somewhere along the conversation that I had it wrong, or I was I misconstrued something, I'd want to know that. I want to take that away from the conversation, so next time I'm better informed for the next person I talk to. I don't think anything or anybody is served by knowingly and willingly deciding that I'm just going to ignore that. I can look it up on the internet. I can verify it if I choose to. I don't feel like it. So I've always been baffled by the lack of intellectual curiosity in terms of what your position is versus what it might actually be, because something has changed. And I'm repeating myself a little bit, but it kind of goes back to, why can't we admit that we're wrong? Isn't it more important to be well informed than to be right? Because if you're not well informed, you're not right anyway. So I'm just kind of baffled by the short term nature of why people are so stubborn when it comes to accepting a viewpoint or a development that changes their position. What's the shame? What's the harm changing your position? The world didn't just end. You got some new information and you've shifted your stance based on it. That's called maturity. I don't understand why more people don't engage in that.
You bring up some points, but it also goes the other way. Now, you asked me if what were my thoughts on having an exchange or an argument. I have a problem with the word argument, because people who consistently use the word argument, to me, they're looking for an argument. You can say that you can, have a debate or have a discussion, but when you say that word argument, that's what you're looking for, and usually that's what it turns into. I have no problem, looking at facts, and there are things that on the internet, whatever, but the internet is written by human beings. The internet, all the information, all the crap that is on the internet is not coming from some holy place, in the sky with all of this information. All the information that we receive, be it someone writing an article, be it someone writing something on the internet, all comes from human beings. It comes from, people who have flaws. It comes from people who are not perfect. It comes from people a lot of times who have their own agenda and want to push things, whether it be from the left, the middle, the right, whatever. If you know if they say, if someone writes an article and says, 40% of America is going to be underwater by the year 2022, if you agree with that person and you read that person all the time, more than likely you're going to agree that 40% of people are going to be underwater by 2022. So you know uh, I do believe there is a level of maturity, but it also comes down to whether or not people want to believe the statistics or the facts that you're presenting, and they keep pushing back. What do you care? I mean, at that point, why don't you just say, you know what? This conversation is going nowhere. I'm just going to leave it alone, instead of continuously trying to push and push and push and push and push to get someone to believe or come around to what you want them to. Sometimes you just have to throw up your hands and just say, you know what? If they don't want to believe what I know are facts or stats or whatever, just let it go. What do you care? Does it really matter if they come around to your way of thinking? I mean, seriously, are you going to die if no one believes what what you think? Is it really going to harm you? Let it go. And Crucible Man says confirmation bias is real. Yes, 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 it is. But I think a lot of people who continuously say, people should listen to facts and be truthful. Are they truthful all the time? So, revolutionary brother, you wanted to say something, and I did not catch your request. So I'm going to send this again to you. And if you want to come on, you can. And I'm not able to send that, so not sure why. But hold on. Never agree with idiots. Moncave Musing says. All right, so Revolutionary Brother, let's see. I'm not able to send you another invite. Don't know why. So okay, so does anyone else want to see? Thank you for inviting me to share my thoughts. I like the idea that debate is healthy. Okay, so debate, and I like the word debate, not argue. Debate is healthy, but I also think that there's a time when you can just stop debating if no one is, willing to, uh, if no one's conforming to your views, well, then just let it go. Okay, there's Revolutionary Brother. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Welcome.
Ma'am, thank you for welcoming me on the show. But let me just say this. You said earlier, that the internet, things that's on like Google and other search engines are all written by human beings, right? You
Yes.
said that. Okay. Well, nothing is written that we know of for a fact or truth or have any proof that anything was written by a God, so to speak. The Bible didn't just drop out the sky and fall on somebody's head and get rendered the word of God. Somebody introduced the book to him and said that it was the word of God. So we're not even sure there. But if we're looking at knowledge from that perspective, then no knowledge is factual. No knowledge is truthful. But the things that are truth, shouldn't we be concerned with the truth of facts? Shouldn't that concern us to some degree?
No, you are absolutely right. And first of all, I'm not going to disagree with the Bible, because I take that if that's on the internet, if the Bible is on the internet, it's being copied from the Bible directly to the internet. But what I mean is, when I say that things are put in there by human beings, I could write that yesterday, 50% of people disagree with, and I'm just throwing this out there, just using it as an example. 50% of people agree with the president. Okay, so who wrote that? Was it so? And then somebody else would come out and say, well, no, 30% of people disagree. So is it 50% or is it 30%? That's what I'm talking about when I say that humans are writing this.
You're absolutely right. But at the same time, people that we hold in high regard and high esteem are human beings. Like Albert Einstein wrote the theory of relativity. That don't mean it's true because he did it. As a matter of fact, Sigmund Freud is known as the father of psychology, even though he only developed one school of it, which was psychoanalytics. So if we're placing that much esteem on human beings, then maybe we should look at it with just a little bit more, oomph than just looking at anything. Now, if the Muppet Baby say something, please disregard that. But we can't disregard things just because it's a human, because all of our information comes from humans. And if they write something about COVID that is factual, and we just look at it like they're just human beings, then we could die not regarding what the individual said that may have been truth and fact.
No, and you are right. So let's take COVID. You have people who are people of science, who people will totally just disagree with. And there are things written about COVID that come from science that are absolutely true. But then you have people who have these, and I will throw up propaganda and these conspiracy theories written by other human beings that come back and say, no, COVID is just a hoax. No, COVID, is just a flu. Don't get a flu shot. It's those, they're trying to change your DNA, and you have people who are writing that, and you have people who are believing it. So it's like, what do you believe? Do you believe this, or do you believe that, or do you just come to the point where you're saying, I'm tired of trying to convince people. I'm tired of trying to, people are not listening to what I consider fact. So at what point do you just say, you know what, just let it go? If they want to think that, that's what they want to think. But revolutionary brother, what I'm trying to say is, I'm not going to engage in an argument with someone because you're trying to force an opinion on me or push something on me. To me, it's just, at some point, it's just not worth it, and I just walk away.
And you know what, ma'am? You are absolutely right. And as a result of that, what you just said, predicated on what you just said, I don't agree with mandates. Because if people are left with the fact that they're just weighing it as an option, I believe that people, from how they estimate it, how they're going to deal with it, I believe they should have a choice from there. Because it's funny how 5 years ago we were taking flu shots, and since COVID, you don't hear about flu shots really anymore.
That's
As a matter
because
of fact,
COVID has dominated the news.
but see, the irony of it is, if 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 HIV dominate the news, we still can't downplay cancer. We still
No.
can't downplay diabetes. So just because something dominate the news, we have to know that the other factors still exist.
No, you are absolutely right, and I don't necessarily think that flu shots have kind of taken a back seat. I mean, there are a lot of things. Okay, um, let's go with HIV. When HIV, was really becoming a prevalent issue. Back in the 80s, all you heard about was HIV, and that's just the way things work. When there's something going on, there's one thing that's always going to dominate over something else. It doesn't mean that the other thing is less important, but I still come back to whether it's fact or an opinion, whatever. At some point, like when Crucible Man says, at what point are you going to recognize that this is fact, or something to that point? I just say, at what point do we just stop trying to push
Ideologies.
your considered facts
Yes.
down someone's throat, and just say, you know what, but believe what you want to believe. I'm just going to let it go because it's just not worth getting into an argument. So that's where I'm coming from.
And you're absolutely right, because belief systems have been pushed throughout the centuries. There has never been a time period in the history of the world that people weren't pushing ideologies and beliefs and concepts and other everything else on people. So as long as you have people that are propagandizing, because that's basically what it is that they're doing, you don't even have to talk to them. Do you know you could just watch TV all day, be on the computer all day? Just as a matter of fact, it's healthy that you could podcast all day. That's healthy for you because you don't even have to deal with people that think that way.
Okay. You make a very valid point. Revolutionary bro, I'm going to go from you for a moment, and I want to open it up to see if anyone else wants to say anything. Does anyone else have anything else that they want to say? Do they want to respond to Revolutionary Brother, respond to me, respond to Crucible Man? I want to give everyone an opportunity to have the mic if they would like so. Or like to, I'm sorry. And Frankie, once again, my sister, thank you so much. Thank you. Crucible Man. Okay, no one else wants to come on. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond to me or respond to Revolutionary Brother.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Revolutionary Brother said. We do tend to focus on the issue du jour, and other things kind of fall by the wayside. The flu being a good example, but kind of bringing it back around to the original premise of the show about social ignorance. Do people know they're being ignorant? Do they care? You summed it up at the beginning when you talked about IQs and stupidity levels, and unfortunately, like the old joke says, you can't fix stupid. But I happen to believe there are an awful lot of people, intelligent people out there who should know better and who do know better and just don't care. They're more interested in making a point. They're more interested in advancing an agenda than getting to the truth. And again, I apologize for repeating myself, but one of the objectives of any kind of exchange or conversation should be to learn something. You don't have to necessarily admit it to the person you're talking to, but you file it away and you go, you know what? I'm going to do a little more research on that. I didn't know that. Because, like I said, we've got a whole big internet out there that can be used for good or for ill. And I want to know what's going on. And if I'm off base or if I'm misguided, not only does that make me look stupid, it's unfair to the person I'm talking to willfully and knowingly advance a position that I know could easily be refuted. So I just kind of wanted to bring the conversation back around to the original premise of, are people ignorant, naturally, innocently ignorant, or are they willfully ignorant? And I would put my chips on the willfully ignorant box.
Okay. Well, I will say this. First of all, if I disagree with something, even if I'm disagreeing with facts, I am not going to feel stupid. So, other people, if you want to feel stupid, that's fine. But I am not going to feel stupid for what I say or what I believe. But I want to put this to you, Crucible Man. If someone is not agreeing with something that you consider fact, um, will it bother you that they don't?
Not anymore. There was a time where it did. I tended to take these things very personally, and that was probably a reflection of an immaturity level that I hope I don't really have anymore. But I guess what I would be quote unquote mad about was the lack of intellectual curiosity, the lack of wanting to know, what's true or not. And you can still disagree with somebody, but to not even acknowledge that what they're saying has some factual merit to it, I don't understand that. I don't know where that gets you. It's not saying you have to agree with me. You can just keep your mouth shut, file it away, and think about it later. You don't have to admit to somebody if it shows weakness or something. You don't have to do that. But I've always been baffled by people who insist on going with a position that they know is probably flawed at best and maybe at worst just flat out inaccurate. But that's just a personal thing on my part. To answer your question, I would let those things go now. But there was a time not that long ago where I would not.
Okay, all right. Because I always, for me, I could never understand why people would get upset. I mean, even now, if I'm disagreeing with someone and people, get upset with me, I would never get it. Why do you care? Why do you care if I don't, agree with you, whatever? And if I'm talking to someone and someone agrees with me, I don't care. You don't disagree with me, or you don't want to, look at my side. Okay, that's fine. Move on. I'm not going to wallow in, they won't, come over to my side. I could never understand why people care. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's not going to affect what I'm doing. It's not going to affect whether or not, I get up in the morning or not. The only person who's going to dictate that is God. Is not going to affect whether my TV show is going to come on or whatever. I could never understand why people care or took it personally. So it's interesting, Crucible Man, that you would say that because And again, maybe that's just the way I'm wired. I don't, I could, and even just for anything, I just don't understand why people are so invested in something that doesn't really affect them. So I'm going to put this other question out to you. And I know I'm getting off topic a little bit, but I don't care. If you were married or you had a date or whatever, and you took a date or your wife or your husband, whatever, to a party or to a work function or something, and you were stating an opinion, whatever, or fact, whatever it is, and they disagreed with you, would you get upset? Would you be the person who, we're supposed to be a team, you always should have my back? Would you get upset because they disagree with you? I'm going to throw that out to people. Anybody? Anybody? Anybody want to take that? Crazy lady, welcome, girl. You're coming in at the end, but welcome, welcome. So, does anybody want to take that? And thank you. Good afternoon. So, Cruz, my man, I'm going to throw it back to you because I know you want to say something. Go ahead.
It depends. So many of these kinds of things depend on the context, the setting, who all is there, how close of a friends they are, in the way the disagreement comes down. If my significant other embarrassed me, or this was a case of maybe there's 8 people at the gathering and 7 of them agree with my spouse, and I'm the only one, that can be a little bit unsettling or a little bit intimidating, and you can react in a way that you might not react under different circumstances. But I don't think your spouse or your significant other is obligated to have your back. I don't think there's anything wrong with publicly disagreeing. It depends on how it's done, who it's in front of, context, I guess. But I don't think there's anything wrong. Otherwise, you'd be Siamese twins. You'd be joined at the hip and you'd be joined at the mind, and that sounds pretty boring to me. So I would not have a problem with the disagreement. But again, it would depend on how it was handled.
Okay, so what if it was in front of your boss, and she or he just said, I disagree because blah 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 blah. Why does it matter who is in front of? If you pose a question or whatever, or if you're bringing something up, doesn't that person have the right to agree or disagree, no matter who is in front of, whether it's your boss, your parents, your friend, your whatever? I mean, does it really matter?
Yeah, they have the right to do that, I suppose. But I guess context does matter, and I would be embarrassed and probably pissed if my spouse or my girlfriend or somebody embarrassed me in front of my boss or other coworkers. I don't think it would matter if it were my parents or something, but um, yeah, you would like to think somebody as close to you as your spouse would have your back, but that's not the same as them feeling obligated to have your back. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing with your spouse. That's not like it never happens, but public disagreements, depending on the topic and, whether it's one of those things where you've gone around and around before in private and now it's being dragged out into the public, and it's a sore spot, and we've talked about it before. I've asked you not to bring that up in mixed company or in a group, and you did it again, kind of a thing. It depends on the history and whatnot, but I would like my spouse to have my back, but I would not want them to feel obligated.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So what if someone, okay, you said that you talked about this privately, and everyone, again, I don't want this to look like this is just a conversation between me and Crucible Man. I would really like it. I understand that some of you are at work or you're not able to take the mic, whatever. I totally get it, but I just want everyone to be clear that this is just not a conversation that I'm purposely having between me and Crucible Man, and Crucible Man is saying, talk people. I'm just really just trying to have this conversation. So please, everyone, just know that you are welcome to take the mic. So Crucible Man, if it were, again, you said that if you guys talked about this in private, and you said that you don't want this to come up in mixed company. But let's say mixed company brought up the subject that you guys talked about that you did not want your spouse to bring up, and they asked, "What do people think?" And she voiced her opinion. Would you be upset?
No, I think this is maybe a time where sense of humor, comes into play. There's lots of different ways of handling things, and I think humor is one of the best ways to disarm or to catch people off guard. The easy thing might be, or the tempting thing might be to get pissed off, but you can diffuse a lot of situations and still make a point by making a joke about it or poking fun in an intelligent way, but still get your point across. So it would depend, but I have always found that using humor in situations like that can be a way to kind of bring the temperature down a little bit, get people back on the same page, but at the same time, I mean, you can make a point through humor. It doesn't mean you're laughing at yourself. Poking fun at yourself is never a bad thing, I don't think. But it can be helpful in situations like that. Everything doesn't have to be, life and death. You can laugh things off, but like I said, still make sure people understand where you're coming from.
Okay, so bringing it back to the social ignorance title of the show, then, if someone doesn't agree with your, excuse me, if someone doesn't agree with your stated fact, well, then there's nothing to get upset about, right?
Correct.
Just okay, all right. So, okay, everybody. Wow, this hour went by fast. This hour went by fast. Okay, does anybody else want to say anything before we call it a day? This hour went by really, really fast. This is what happens every time we get to talking. The time flies. Does anyone want to have the final word or the final chat? Does anyone? I need a glass of water. You guys are making Crucible Man talk too much. Crazy lady, do you want to pop in and give a final word, ma'am? Do you want that? I am giving the crazy lady. What do you want to say, girl?
Other than just, I love everyone, and everyone, as long as you talk things out and stuff, everything will generally be okay,
Okay.
as if the partner's back. If Ross is making a big butt out of himself, I'll tell him, dude, you're on your own on this one. And I'll just walk away. He does the same thing to me.
Okay. All right.
But, like usually, like if something comes up and we're like, get mad or anything, we won't argue in public. We'll wait, because that's nobody else's business is the way we look at it,
Okay. You make some valid points. Teacher Runner, I am going to, or e-teacher Runner, I'm going to send you an invite. Do you want to put in something before we end the show? If not, that's not a problem. Okay. All right, and Camel B, welcome. Okay, so guys, this has been an interesting conversation as always. And I thank everyone for coming. Tomorrow, again, I am traveling, so tomorrow is usually my last show of the week on Thursday. I do have a show that is posted. I may have a show tomorrow. I may not, because again, I am traveling, and there is some things that I need to take care of. So I may make the show. I may not. If not, I will be back home in Southern California on Monday, and I will definitely have a show. But tomorrow, I will keep the topic posted. If I find out that I cannot do the show, then I would just bump that show to Monday. But anyway, everyone, thank you so much. E-Teacher Runner, thank you for coming on. Crazy Lady, Crucible Man, Frankie, Feisty One, Revolutionary Man, Revolutionary Brother, I'm sorry, GP Man, thank you. And Frankie, your pod beings, thank you so much. And Juju, thank you, everyone. So on that note, you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will hopefully see you tomorrow. Bye. Thank you, Crucible Man, and thank you, Frankie. Frankie, your gifts, I am absolutely loving them, girl. Thank you so much. Thank you, Crucible Man. I appreciate that. And I'm just going to hang out for the rest of the show. And Frankie, the day that you're not working, on a day where it's a day off or something, I would love to hear what you have to say. So, and I do see your comments that you leave. I do see the comments that you leave, and I thank you. The show doesn't work without you guys. If you guys didn't come on, I wouldn't have a show. Because I'm not going to talk to myself. I mean, I could, but I prefer to conversate, have a conversation with others. So thank you. Thank you, Frank. Oh, wow. I will say, Frankie, you are definitely helping my algorithms with those pod things. So thank you. Okay, y'all, you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.